Thanks for joining me today for this brief overview of the power gen and manufacturing market sectors that Bell Performance seeks to penetrate. What we want to talk about today is we want to talk about a minor overview of these. And by minor, we're talking about we're not going to go into a huge amount of depth. We have other training sessions and other presentations where we will go into a lot more depth, but this is really intended to be a high level introductory overview of how Bell Performance relates or seeks to relate to these two very important market verticals. Just to introduce myself, I am Eric Bjornstad, and I am the Technical Information Director for Bell Performance. So today, what we want to cover is we want to talk about the opportunities to solve the problems that these areas face. Past and present opportunities solve problems for power gen and for manufacturing. Now, when we talk about manufacturing, what we may refer to it also as is heavy industry. And typically, when you talk about power gen and heavy industry, you're talking about people that burn heavy fuel oil. Now, um, our history with these markets really goes way back to 1952. Now, Robert Bell, the company's namesake, he started the company as Bell Laboratories in 1909. But for the first 4 decades or so of the company's history, he was really concerned with treating gasoline. Now, in the early 50s, he started branching out into diesel treatment. And his first non-gasoline fuel treatment formulation was something that he called ATX 909, and that was a fuel oil treatment. But basically, all it was a detergent for fuel oil. That was 1952. 1954, he followed up with a multifunction for on-road diesel, number two diesel, which is what he called Dee-Zol, and that is still with us today. Now, uh, ever since now we're going on 6 or 7 decades since that time, and Bell's done a lot of fuel treatment in these markets, and primarily they've used ATX or atomics, and they've used Dee-Zol. Dee-Zol has gone into the trucks. Atomics has treated the heavy fuel oil for the manufacturing plants for the power generation facilities. Now, today, this is 2016, 16 years into the 21st century, we have a lot, even more things to offer than just Dee-Zol and ATX. Uh, so even if a manufacturing plant uh, doesn't burn heavy fuel oil anymore, which is the case for a number of places around the world, even if they don't use that, we still have a number of valuable things we can offer them. If they store fuel, if they have backup generators, well, we have fuel stabilizers, we have biocides and water controllers to help with water and micro problems. We have sludge dispersants. So we've really been able to diversify a very effective and helpful product line for these markets. So, in order to know, what you want to offer them, you need to know what they want. Sales is about giving the people what they want. What are the goals of power generation? What would they be aiming to accomplish if they were to choose to treat their fuel? Well, um, most power generation places are for profit, so they want to maximize their profitability. They want to have more output. Now, more output, what that means is they want to be more fuel efficient. So they want to produce more power per unit of fuel. They want to lower their emissions. Emissions, that's a big deal nowadays. There's heavy regulatory pressure on the power generation industry. So they want to make sure that they stay in line with those regulators and keep in line with the lower emissions goals that they have. And then this fewer headaches thing, what we're talking about, what we mean here is um, they want to solve problems. Now, when a problem arises with a piece of equipment that's fuel related, it's usually an unexpected problem. And so what it does is it causes they have to spend money to fix it. They have to spend time, and they have increased stress. And you talk to anybody who works in the power generation industry, they don't need any more stress they need as little stress as possible. So, you know, fewer headaches would definitely be a goal for the power generation industry. Now, what about manufacturing? Do they want anything different? Well, there's a lot of overlap here. They want to be profitable again. They want to be profitable just like power generation wants to be. They want to make more output again. Now, it may look a little different for this sector because it depends on what they're manufacturing. We have cement factories and glass factories in the Far East that use ATX products. What they want is they want to make more glass per kilogram of fuel or per liter of fuel. They want to make more cement. They want to make more widgets. They want to have more output per unit of fuel. They also want cost predictability as well. Now, this is an interesting one to consider because, when they're planning out budgets for the year, they know about what they want to do in terms of, how much they want to make, how much they want to sell, and how expensive or how much it's going to cost in order to do that. And they're able to predict certain things, but they're not able to predict everything. They would like to predict everything, but they can't. That's just the way life is. Using Bell Performance products and using ATX and other things, that actually helps them improve their cost predictability. They also need longer lasting equipment. They want to reduce their the problems that the equipment has that may cause it to not last as long as it might. So they definitely want that. Easier job, yes. Just like with Powergen, the plant managers and the plant personnel, they want to minimize the problems that might arise when they have an unexpected problem. So they use ATX, they treat their fuel, they use Dee-Zol, Dee-Zol Life, they use Belicide to eliminate the microbes. And fewer unexpected problems means fewer headaches and less stress, and thus an easier job. And then, of course, just like Powergen, they're under a certain amount of regulatory pressure themselves. So they want to keep the government happy and happy too, because most everybody has a boss. And whether it's the fuels guy, he answers to somebody, the plant manager answers to somebody. So they want to keep themselves looking good in the eyes of the decision makers that make the decisions that affect their professional lives. So those are the kind of things that the manufacturing sectors want. Now, what do the opportunities look like for Bell here? We can summarize it by saying that there's still sizable opportunities for both Dee-Zol and ATX usage. Even though use of heavy fuel oil has dropped, fairly substantially from a domestic standpoint. Since let's say if you were comparing, the early 2000s, there has been a lot of change when you talk about the cost of oil versus the cost of natural gas. Natural gas has become dirt cheap. Oil has become a lot more expensive relative to natural gas. And so you have a lot of places that are actually switching to natural gas. Now, we do have to understand that if you look at history, there is a cyclical aspect to this. So, natural gas may be dirt cheap now, as you can see from this graph, which goes from 2005 to 2012. You can see that the cost of diesel kind of, since 2009, mid-2009, it was kind of trending upwards a little bit, while at the same time, natural gas, another viable source of fuel source for industry, has been trending down. Now, since 2012, the things have stabilized a little bit, but by and large, they're not using anywhere near as much heavy fuel oil in the United States as they used to. Now, that being said, you want to talk about international opportunities. There's still substantial heavy fuel oil use internationally. And so there's plenty of opportunities for us to be able to continue to sell things like Dee-Zol and ATX into those markets. And so, of course, that's what we'll aim to do because, we may not be the biggest company in the world. We may not be ExxonMobil. We may not be Afton, but there's still plenty of pieces of the pie to go around for people like us. Now, we mentioned that fuel oil usage has dropped dramatically. What opportunities does that leave behind for us to target? Let's say we could not treat any fuel oil ever again. It's all gone. We would still have plenty of meaningful things that we could do from a problem-solving standpoint. Fuel storage treatment. They may not use heavy fuel oil anymore, but there's still plenty of number 2 diesel that's being stored across the country and around the world. It needs fuel storage treatment to remain viable. Biocides is a huge one. In fact, biocide usage is trending up, up, up. And the reason that is because of the movement towards ultra low sulfur diesel, ULSD. Ultra low sulfur diesel has virtually no resistance to fuel microbes, and that means all of these places that are storing ULSD and not checking on it regularly, of course, are going to find themselves with huge microbe problems at the most inconvenient times. Well, we have something that can help them. We have a biocide called Belicide, very effective and also very essential because there's only one thing you can use to kill and eradicate a microbial infestation in the storage tank, and that is a biocide. It's not like you have a lot of options of types of things to use. So we have that. We also have sludge dispersants and water controllers, again, for stored fuel and for emergency generation systems. And we have performance enhancers like cetane improvers. Cetane is one of the most widely used fuel additives. It's an essential aspect of the fuel, and the recommendations and the specifications for fuel cetane are trending on their way up. Historically, you've needed to have a minimum 40 cetane in order. You've needed to have a minimum 40 cetane in order to even sell something as diesel fuel. Well, that doesn't mean that every engine runs its best on 40 cetane. Well, now that the de facto requirement in the marketplace is edging up towards 42, and that's just in the United States. If you go to the European Union, you go to Japan, you could be talking about 46 or even 50. So there remains a very substantial opportunity for cetane improvers. So there are plenty of things that we can do in the power generation and manufacturing sectors to solve some problems, keep a healthy customer base, and generate substantial revenue. So that's the overview of the power gen and the manufacturing markets for us. If you have any questions, if you were attending this training live, then you would have somebody that you could ask questions. But most likely you're watching this on video, so there's not anybody in front of you to do that. So I put my email address up here, ebjornstad@bellperformance.net. If you have any questions, by all means, please email me at this address. Just mention that you were watching the power gen and manufacturing training overview, and just let me know what you need. I will be very happy to help you. So thanks for joining me. I am Eric Bjornstad with Bell Performance. We'll see you next time.